welcome again to Getting to the Top, a podcast about leadership and transformation. As we talk about where we are in this world and the kind of earth that we want to live on, it is really so important that we have transformational leaders who can help show us the way. And so I have been honored to interview a selection of phenomenal leaders who have proven themselves over time and have managed to get to the top despite being non-traditional. And so today I have the honor of speaking with Ms. Arvinder Bharath, Senior Manager of Financial Technology, Information Security and Knowledge and Information Management for the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome and thank you so much for joining me on Getting to the Top.
Thank you very much, Racquel. I'm very excited to be here.
Wonderful. So let's jump right in. So tell us a little bit about your current role and about your career trajectory. How did you get here?
Oh, that is a very long journey I've been on. My current role is, it entails looking after the bank's technology and information security. By information security, I mean cyber threats and cyber attacks and, guarding against all those kinds of things. Prior to this, I've held this role now for about 4 or 5 years, I think, approximately 5 years. And added to my role since last year was also knowledge and information management. There was a bit of a reshuffle and I landed with that. Prior to this, I was Deputy Inspector of Supervision, looking after the financial institutions that are within our remit, so insurance companies, banks, non-banks, pension funds, etc. And before then, I was president and country head of Royal Bank, of RBC Royal Bank in Trinidad and Tobago. And prior to that, I spent about 11 years with Barclays Bank in the UK and in its international locations, in a series of positions. And before then, my earlier career was all built in Trinidad with the Ansa Group, which was then known as McAnany Olstons.
Wow.
That's been my journey.
Well, that's fabulous. And, it's interesting because you've come through sort of banking into finance and central bank. Certainly, there's no higher place as it relates to country finances. And then in information technology, which is, you find that banking is dominated by women, but information technology, not at all. And so how has that been for you, being in this role that's typically dominated by men, for example, and being able to manage in that structure and having the ability to assert yourself in that structure?
Well, you'd be surprised, actually. My entire management team below me is female.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. Within IT as well as knowledge and information management, they're all women. And you're right. Generally speaking, it has in the past, at least, been dominated by men. But there have been quite a few incentives from the sector, encouraging women into these positions, and it's done pretty well. So I would say nowadays it's not a prevailing thing that it's dominated by men. It's a good blend that we have come to.
Excellent. I mean, but that's is it within the bank or within the country? But globally, the numbers are not necessarily very promising. But I think that presents an opportunity.
Yes, yeah. It certainly does. And those numbers are shifting slowly.
Excellent.
They certainly are.
So when did you know? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. You ask your questions.
When did you know that you first wanted to lead? How did that happen for you?
It didn't. I didn't know I wanted to lead. As a matter of fact, my entire career has been unplanned, I should say. I have a first degree in information technology. And from that, I got into the industry of information technology. And at that time, you're absolutely right. I was one of the very few female students at university. And I did a stint in information technology related roles. One was at British Telecom, and then when I came to Trinidad with Ansa, I went into the Management Information Services unit, then transitioned to my first managerial role at Carrick Glassworks as the manager of IT services there. That was quite a defining moment for me, because it was my first managerial role, and two, if you want to know a male-dominated society, it's that of engineers, or used to be at least. Carrick Glassworks, I was the only female manager in the team. So I did struggle with that a little bit, because it was always that need to prove yourself, despite the fact you have the right qualifications, you bring to bear a level of knowledge and competence which lands you that position to start with. I think it's an ongoing, I guess, a sound or a voice in the back of your head that you have to always be proving yourself, because you're in a slightly different type of company. But I did okay with that. I did well. Then I moved into another position with computers and controls, and that was a higher position. It was general manager of Caribbean operations, and I absolutely loved that job. I mean, even today, if one were to ask me what was the job that I enjoyed the most, it has to be that one. I learned about sales. I learned about targets. I learned about competition. I learned about bidding wars. I responded to tenders, and it was very different to a practicing technologist. Mm-hmm. But it was also very interesting for me, because it became a blend of understanding technology and selling it. So I had a level of credibility in the industry locally here, because people knew me as an IT manager at a peer group, and here I am now trying to sell you technology. Right. So it worked quite well, because it came with a place of knowledge.
That's funny. That mirrors my career trajectory a little bit, in that I started off, started off selling technology, but then after being involved in it and studying technology, it's really lends a lot of credibility when you've practiced what you're selling, so that you understand the challenges within the business, and it's not a superficial conversation that you're having. Is that what helped you when you were talking about sort of the voices where you always need to prove yourself? Is that what helped you to quiet those voices, or is it that there was some other methodology?
Well, clearly, it would help when you build in confidence. Mm-hmm. I hit every sales target that I had. Mm-hmm. And I did quite well in that job, which is, while having fun with it also. So yes, those voices went away, or subsided at least for a period of time, as I found my way around it. But I guess it's probably not me alone. I mean, those voices always reemerge every so often. When you take a leap into doing different, you say, my God, am I good enough for this? Or, am I making the right decision? But going back to the point I was making in terms of, when did I know I wanted to lead? I didn't. I did not plan for any of the roles that I have held. Actually, none of the roles that I've held, bar one, which was with Barclays Bank. And that too was not pre-planned. That was just a passion that I wanted to pursue. And I'll come to that in a second. But and each role that I've had, when I look back, I do not regret. It has, intuitively, I guess, I would have known that it was the right move when it was presented to me, because each one has added to my repertoire in quite a complementary way. Mm-hmm. So just like, practicing technologist, sales of technology led me into my entry into Barclays Bank, and I became the relationship director for their technology services arm. So I was a liaison. I could speak in English, everything about technology. So I used to be the liaison for all of the wealth management businesses within Barclays Bank. From there, technology morphed into getting into the integration, mergers, and acquisition space, because I was representing technology synergies and so on. Until one day, one of my colleagues who was handling the banking synergies for an acquisition Barclays had done ended up leaving suddenly. And my boss said to me, well, would you please take these over? And I said, well, I don't know about banking. I mean, he said, well, you've been working with a bank for a little while now, so figure it out. And I'm glad I was thrown in the deep end. Okay. I then picked up banking, and until I took on this role, I never looked back. I remained a banker for a number of years after that. And the voice had reemerged at that time to say, I'm taking this on. It's a passion. If my boss believes that I can do it, I should be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I actually, on my own, did some crash courses in various aspects of banking. So I would not feel uncomfortable in any situation. So from there, you move from role to role. It's a very large institution with 110,000 people and various international locations. So it gives you a career. I did move from role to role and enjoyed every single one of them. So, but the one role that I planned for was when Barclays decided to go to India. I'm from India, and I was very passionate about being part of that journey. And I put myself forward as wanting to really be within that team. Worked with McKinsey's for a long period of time to come up with the Barclays strategy. And during that period, because the intention was to return to your substantive role after this piece of work was done over a period of a year. During that time, while doing the strategy and the analysis, the market analysis, we realized that there was a need for funding to come from Indians to fund the balance sheet in India, because there are rules and regulations in terms of how much money the parent company could put in the balance sheet. There were caps. So, and the concept of NRI banking, non-resident Indian banking, was born for Barclays Bank. I mean, the concept existed in the world, but Barclays, being a very British bank, had not dabbled into that at all. And I created that role. I created the proposition. I branded that proposition.
Nice.
For the first time ever at Barclays Bank, I had posters called Bollywood Banking in branches. I had pictures and images of Indian items, luring Indians who were living in the UK to start with to send money home into Barclays Bank that was established in India. And, by the time I moved away from that role, I had covered 150 branches in all of the areas where Indian populations were more prevalent. So that was something that was planned. But
is that the transformation that you're most proud of across your career? I think that sounds amazing.
Yes, I have to say that I am. That was truly transformational, because I set up the entire thing. I was completely empowered. I remember doing a radio interview, and the marketing director of Barclays Bank calling me afterwards. He says, "Well, what was that about?" And I said, "Well, NRI banking." He says, "Well, I didn't know this was happening." And I said, "Well, here you are." No,
now you know.
and in the next couple of weeks that followed, there was complete integration of it. Yeah. I got complete support. And the interview was actually done with an ethnic radio station as well. But obviously, because it was Barclays, the word got to him. There are those filters, and it got completely integrated. So it did transform how Barclays thought about banking, non-resident Indian type of banking propositions in the UK, because UK banking is all about that. And anytime Barclays looks at international banking in those days was in those countries and not from the UK so much, unless it's offshore banking. And I had teams of people across 3 continents and across 3 time zones, which to me was, and managing that was challenging, but it was amazing, absolutely amazing. So yes, I would say that, because that's one of the positions I'm very proud of.
And so in terms of how you were able to put all of those connections together and understand this need and create this new solution, it was a bit of your being non-traditional in the role, in that you were in a very British bank with Indian roots and thinking about, listen, how do we connect the dots and create more opportunities for people to bank in different ways, as non-residents, for example. And do you think that sort of diversity supports innovation in a number of industries? And then what sort of gave you the confidence to take on this enormous challenge? Because, being in rooms where you look different from most of the other people in the rooms, there has to be something that sort of fuels you to say, I can do this, and this is something different that's needed that can create new pathways for people?
I think, well, one, I was just so passionate for Barclays to succeed in India. I truly wanted Barclays to succeed in India. It was almost a personal passion. And secondly, I really did think I could do it. Seriously, I thought I could do it. And that fueled it as well. And I think it would have come through in my presentations to the executive when I put forward the proposals, when I was able to say, look, and it was backed by analysis. I was able to show a world map and say, here are the Indian populations throughout the world. And we have presence in the locations where there are good concentrations.
Yes.
And we have the ability, because of the brand, to pull people through. And it really, I never thought for a moment that it would not go through, that it would not get the approvals that I needed or the support that I needed. Not for a moment did I have any doubts. So I don't think I even paused to think that this was not likely to happen. There was a need and there were the means. So, we forged ahead.
So you're saying that some of the hallmarks of your career would be passion, analysis, and a lack of planning sometimes, just going with the flow a little bit.
In terms of career planning, not because you don't want to plan, but because so much is coming at you that you don't have the moments, that you would sit down and say, well, what do I want to do next? Because it's in front of you and say, why don't you do this? And I say, well, that sounds interesting. Yeah. It's not something that I say everybody should do, but I'm saying that here's an example of someone who didn't go through the traditional career planning route. And, I have absolutely no regrets.
But I think that the sort of being open and going with the flow is a real important message for a lot of people who are in non-traditional roles and environments, and understanding that there isn't just one path to the top. There are a number of different ways that you get there. And as long as you are open to the opportunities as they present themselves, and you follow the things that you are passionate about and support it with information and analysis, and certainly with training and having a solid background and being willing to learn, that you can then end up in a place that for many people who are not necessarily traditional couldn't imagine.
Yes. And, what you just described there is the concept of a career lattice as opposed to a career ladder, because that's exactly what it is. It's a crisscross, to get to the top, as opposed to carving your way up a ladder in a straight. So, learning about different skill sets really does give you a lot more depth. It gives you a lot more confidence because you can draw on those things so subconsciously. Diversity is one side of it, because women may think slightly differently, and you throw in gender, you throw in the ethnic aspect of it, and we may have cultural differences there as well that we bring to bear. But blending of various skill sets that I think is something I would recommend, definitely.
Oh, I love it. I love it as a concept. And so, I'm curious, what did your parents think you would become?
Oh, a doctor. Yes, I come from a family of doctors, actually. My entire, all my uncles and their children, my grandfather, they were all doctors.
Okay, all right.
So I was destined to become a doctor, and I was doing my science A-levels, which was another unplanned thing. I was all up for medicine. And one day, this is in the UK, I went to an open day at some of the universities, and information technology was being promoted as one of the new degrees that they were running. And I said, well, that's really interesting. I want to do that. And I went home and I said to my father, I said, don't think medicine is for me. I really would like to get into technology. And I am very blessed. My father was very supportive of whatever I wanted to do. And that's where the shift came, and I jumped into it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what were some of the most important things that you learned along the way?
There's so many, Racquel. what comes to the top of my head is flexibility, the openness to take on new challenges, which really is important. The knowledge that you don't always have to win. I think that was a very important lesson for me.
Wow.
Because, from when I was a child, I've been very competitive. And, to get to the point where you say, well, no, you don't always have to win, because there are lessons in not winning as well. And, as somebody said, failure is not fatal and success is not final. I can't remember who said that,
wow.
but that's important.
Yes. Failure is not fatal and success is not final. Oh my goodness. All right. And so any final words?
Simply my recommendation to all my female peers would be to have self-esteem, to have self-love and self-appreciation, and absolutely flexibility in your thinking and openness for any career opportunities that present themselves. And also, I would like to take the opportunity to say that success doesn't happen alone. It takes a support network. It requires the support of your loved ones. In my case, I could not have done anything to this extent without the support of my husband. He, I don't think I can do this alone. I just well up. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. I think the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten was my first class in college. The economics teacher, my first class, came in and he said, what's the most important decision that you can make in your life, financial life? And people were like, the house, the car. He says, no, the partner, the spouse that you pick will determine whether you have the space to create the life that you envision. And that stayed with me day in, day out, because I said, that's the best advice. If you do not have a supporting partner, and I think, there are lots of memes going around that say, successful women either have a supportive partner or no partner at all, because there isn't another option. And I loved your thing about, failure isn't final and success isn't final and failure isn't fatal. But, there's another saying that I like that's very similar that talks about, I either win or I learn. I never lose. Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. Very true.
So thank you so much for spending the time with us, and congratulations on your wonderful husband, who I'm a huge fan of as well, as you know. And so thank you so much for spending the time. And I hope that this is valuable to other transformational leaders who are either looking to transform their organizations or on their journey to leadership. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.